Good morning again. As we go on to modules 3 and 4, we're leaving those critical issues and leadership styles behind, and we are really starting to look at this grant that we want to write and how we write a grant. So as I showed you in the last video, module 3A talks about these critical issues in technology, and I'm going to want you to do a quick search and make sure you understand what each of these is. Module 3B is talking about the text, and it's chapter 4 starts with this statement: read this chapter if you want to keep your job. And I just thought that was a very strong way to start a chapter. So read that for me and tell me what you think. And then module 3C is really starting to look at how we will plan out our grant. So in the very first discussion board post, you talked about what you wanted for your classroom. Then you looked into some research and seeing what's out there. So here we want to start putting the objectives and procedures for these wants and needs into a paper document. The easiest way to see this, I find, is to look at an example. So this is a grant I wrote a couple of years ago, and again, this is going to be much more detailed than yours. But I have whatever activity I needed to do for the grant. I had a date that it would be implemented. I had a benchmark saying what I actually needed to do. This is basically the procedures, the person responsible, and the assessment of how I knew it was going to be done. So in your grant, again, it won't be this detailed, but you will have an objective or an activity that you want to meet. You will have some procedures on how this will be done, and you will eventually, not for this module, have an assessment on how that you know these procedures are going to be done. So the objective may be for students in 5th grade math to raise their test scores in fractions by 10%. The benchmarks may be to purchase smart responders and use these devices while teaching that concept. And then eventually you would identify assessment as either a standardized test score or an end of unit score. So for module 3C, that's what you're starting with. You should have at least, I would say, 2 or 3, maybe 4 or 5 objectives for your grant. When you're doing this, start, if you have written SLTs this year for the new Compass rubric, you can start with those. You can get ideas from other people. Again, when up here you're talking about what you want, relate whatever you want to student experience or outcomes. Your grant can also be focused on teachers if you prefer to focus it on professional development and teachers rather than students. So it's absolutely up to you. Going on to Module 4, we're going to talk about where in the world can we find this money. So this big long thing that Moodle wouldn't let me format properly tells you a few grant sources that are popular. The best way to go about finding your grant source is to start at your parish's website. So, for example, I'm in Ascension Parish. Ascension Parish has a website that has funding sources on it. I've also put lots of resources on here for other grants. If you teach science, this National Science Foundation gives lots and lots of grants. Again, scroll down, and these have a million. Don't get overwhelmed. Again, you might want to start on your parish's website, because most of these are going to be national. Remember that your grant does not have to be a $10,000 grant. It can be a $1,000 grant if that's all you need. You are absolutely able to start small, and then we will work our way up. But whatever you do, hopefully you can turn it in within the next 6 months or so that you can get some cool toys for your classroom. Okay, so that is it for topics 3 and 4, and I will see you soon.